Lucy Edwards, Director of Client Success at VHT Studios. And today I'm at this magnificent home of Alan Dalton. Thank you for inviting us, Alan.
Lucy, you're very welcome to be in our home. Thank you for being here.
Alan Dalton is the Senior Vice President of Research and Development of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services and Home Services of America. You've been speaking so highly, and I totally agree with you, with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services and Home Services of America. What about other brands and agents that are part of different brands throughout our United States and Canada and globally?
Well, first of all of the challenges are not unique to either Berkshire Hathaway Home Services or Home Services of America. There's changes underway that will impact the future of the entire industry. And I'm completely dedicated to the entire industry. I would say this, first of all, we have to be prepared and understand that there's a movement towards democratization and decentralization of power, okay? So that brings us to blockchain, crypto, and the Metaverse. When I was CEO of Realtor.com, on our board, we had a very distinguished group. We had one gentleman, his name was John Doerr, D-O-E-R. John funded Google, and he's a New York Times bestseller. And he used to tell me, along with Mike Long, who was the CEO of Home Store, Mike founded WebMD, and then we had this gentleman, Roger McNamee, who is called Mark Zuckerberg's mentor. He was featured in Time magazine last year, and he wrote the book Zucked. And then we had the founder of Nickelodeon, and all of these very sophisticated, futuristic thought leaders, they all basically reminded me, as CEO of Realtor.com, of the importance of sociology, because the real estate industry is still more mired in psychology. A lot of the coaching is still talking about the psychology of sales, and that's great. It's great to be able to put people in personality profiles. You're a D, you're an I, you're an S, you're a C. It's great to tell people if somebody leans forward, you should lean forward. If they cross their arms, you should cross your arms, okay? Or to say to them, how does this sound to you if they're auditory, or how does this look to you if you're visual, or how does this feel to you if you're tactile? But that's at the micro level of the funnel. At the macro level, okay, is sociology. Because I've heard realtors for years saying, people don't understand my value. I'm a salesperson, I'm a marketing person, I'm a network, I'm a stager, I'm a psychologist. I don't hear people saying, but I'm a sociologist. Sociology is more important to the future of this industry, to every realtor and to every company, than psychology will ever be. Psychology is the micro level, but 75% of homeowners only interview one agent. So most agents aren't going to lose the listing because they didn't say, how does this sound to you versus how does this feel to you? But they're not even going to have the opportunity to be at the micro level if they don't understand the macro level. And at the macro level, and I was mentioning John Doerr before I went into these other points. John Doerr used to say, Alan, do you know why Amazon was created? Why, John? To eliminate illiteracy in the world. Mike Long, the founder of WebMD. Alan, do you know why we created WebMD? To democratize medical information. That's what's happening in the world. The Metaverse is basically a double distributed ledger, more tamper resistance, okay? It's basically to streamline the transaction and take out the inefficiency and the cost to help more people buy real estate. Crypto is to have a universal digital currency for a lot of sociological reasons, as is the Metaverse. We don't have time to get into great detail about that, but the one thing I'll say, in fact, I said this, I spoke at the Inman conference on this, and I'll say the same thing here, Lucy, if you'll indulge me, and that is this. For years, I used to hear so-called thought leaders, which I really privately concluded they were thought followers. They would all say the same thing, Lucy. You probably heard it. We've got to keep realtors at the center of the transaction. Oh, we've got to keep realtors at the middle of the transaction. That's precisely where disruptors, cyberspace carpetbaggers, and interlopers want to confine and limit realtor value to, just to the center of the transaction, where they control and influence consumers before, during, and after the transaction. So if people are saying, let's keep realtors at the center of the transaction, And then you have the advent of blockchain. And one of the purposes of blockchain, beyond the transcendent social purposes that I alluded to, is that they want to minimize the importance of the stakeholders to a transaction, which means all the more that Realtor value has to be more relational. But it just can't be relational. It has to be real estate relevant relational. I used to hire former mayors of towns, and they couldn't secure a transaction. They had relationships. They had a sphere of influence, but they weren't real estate relevant relationships. And that's what every single broker, every brand, every agent has to do more. It's not enough just to say customers for life, that doesn't even make sense. No one has a customer for life. You'll have a client for life. But it's also putting together programs, content. It would be like a financial planner saying, Lucy, I'd love to be your financial planner, but I don't do financial planning. Oh, I'd love to be your realtor for life, but I don't do any planning with you. And so I hope the entire industry gets to the point where we get everybody doing planning. Everybody's in a client base versus a database. That would be my advice for the entire industry.